These 10 cooking tips will help you cook like a professional chef at home. They're simple, they're easy. I put this list together and I think they're really gonna help you, so pay attention. I'm Josh Adamo. I've been a professional chef now for the past decade, working some of the best restaurants in the world. I'm not a content creator, I'm not an influencer, I'm a professional chef. These 10 tips are gonna help you up your cooking game at home, make your prep smoother, make your food taste better, and just make your life more efficient. Okay guys, so first tip, make sure you set up your section, okay? Your section for me, in case you haven't noticed, I always have a chopping board, I always have salt, oil, spoon pot, and a pepper mill, okay? These are your basic fundamental things that you're gonna reach for. I also have this sort of setup in the corner where I have tongs, I have a Maurice, I have spatula, wooden spoon normally. The basic fundamentals is salt, pepper, oil, chopping board, knife. You should always have this set up next to your cooking section because you never know when you're gonna need to reach for something. It's good to have everything in one spot. Tip number one, set up your section. Tip number two is clean as you go. I know this is very simple, it sounds very easy, it's almost like, you know, what's the term, beating a dead horse, is that what they say? It really is important. You know, you're gonna have time when things are on the stove cooking, you have some downtime. Clean as you go, clean a pot, clean the sink, make sure you clean the area around you. Your section is like your brain. Okay, if your brain's all clustered and there's a bunch of shit going on and you're not thinking straight, you can see that as a visual representation in your kitchen. Make sure when you're working, everything around you is nice and clean, folded towels, things put away, because it's just gonna help you have a better finished product. Okay, one thing I like to do that helps me with this, always, you guys will see I have a waste bowl. You use it for scraps, you use it for things that you could just throw in. It's quicker than putting it in the bin. You just throw it in the bowl and then empty the bowl in the bin after. Okay, so have a waste bowl and clean as you go. Tip number two. Okay, tip number three. Do not be afraid to set the fire alarm off in your house or your apartment, okay? Because color is flavor, all right? And you need to be able to cook with high heat. You need to be able to smoke the shit out of your place to put the color on things that you need to. I set the fire alarm off here in my apartment all the time. It's completely normal. At one point when I was living in Toronto, I unplugged my fire alarm and just constantly kept it unplugged because of how much I set the fire alarm off. I do not recommend you to unplug your fire alarm. That's probably not gonna be the best choice, but at the same time, you kind of understand the level of heat that you need to be working with. In the professional kitchens, you have these massive hoods above the stove. You can blast things with so much heat that no matter what happens, all that smoke's gonna go through the hoods and you're gonna be fine. So at home, I notice when I'm cooking, I don't have that same convenience and I set the fire alarm off. Now, a big mistake that I see a lot of cooks making at home is they have a pan, the pan's not hot enough, they crowd the pan with too much stuff in it and it just sort of bubbles and it doesn't get that nice caramelized end product that you're looking for. Put less in your pan, have your pan heat a little bit higher. Don't overcrowd the pans when you're putting stuff inside of it, and really just, you know, cook accurately. If you're cooking a small amount of things, you should cook it in a small pan. If you're cooking a large amount of things, you should cook it in a large pan. And the heat should be relative to the size of the pan that you're using. You shouldn't be using a big pan on a small element. You shouldn't be using a small element on a big pan. Okay, so just use some common sense with that one and set your fire alarm off like a normal person. Guys, tip number four is get yourself a good pepper mill. This is the pepper mill that I love, that I use. It's Peugeot. I can put the link in the description underneath to get it off Amazon. I bought mine off Amazon. It's a great French pepper mill. Don't buy ground pepper, okay? Just be better than that. If you have any ground pepper in your house, give it to your neighbor, give it to your son or daughter to give to their boyfriends or girlfriends. You don't need it in your cooking. Buy whole peppercorns, buy a pepper mill. These things are great. You unscrew the top, you put peppercorns in the top. See, these are whole peppercorns. All right, you load them up. Oh, you get them everywhere. Put it on. You screw it in. And this pepper mill, you adjust on the bottom so you can see all the different sizes of pepper that you can get, from small to medium to coarse, and you have that flavor of fresh cracked black pepper. It's so much different than pepper that's been sitting pre-ground. Does really make a difference, guys. So get yourself a pepper mill and just be better than ground pepper, all right, please. Tip number five, get yourself a cast iron pan. These pans are great at holding heat, conducting heat, and delivering an even heat across the base of the pan. They're not gonna warp on you, they're not gonna turn, you're not gonna get hot here and not hot here. They're heavy, they're durable. Get one, learn how to treat it, learn how to clean it, learn how to season it. There's tons of videos on YouTube about that. If you guys want me to do one, please put some comments in the comment section here, and I'll make sure that I do a video on cast iron pans if you really want. I use this cast iron pan all the time. I cook steaks in it, I cook fish in it. They're non-stick if you treat them properly. If you put salt in them and season them properly, blast them with heat, they're actually non-stick pans. They're so useful. You can get cast iron pans, you can get cast iron pots. You know, investing in proper cookware does make a hell of a difference. Expensive pans, expensive pots really do make a difference. What it comes down to a lot of times is just holding heat, delivering heat. If you have a big piece of meat and you have a thin pan, and the pan gets hot and you put this big piece of cold or room temperature meat, the pan temperature cools down. You have this thick cast iron pan that conducts heat and holds the heat really well. When you put an ingredient into it, it doesn't cool the pan down. So you can keep delivering that hot heat as you need it. If you don't, then it cools down and maybe the meat or the fish starts pissing out liquid, starts bubbling, starts poaching. It's not what you want. You want hot heat, fast heat, okay? Link in the description of the video for my favorite cast iron pan that I use. All right, and so go from there. Get yourself a cast iron pan. Guys, tip number 6 is use fresh herbs, okay? I don't like to buy dry herbs because fresh herbs offer so much more than dry herbs. They're meant to be fresh, they're meant to be delicate and fresh in flavor, and you're meant to cook with them and finish things with them, and it really does make one hell of a difference, okay? There is a time and place for dry herbs. A lot of times that time and place is in coatings, dredges, dried thyme, dried basil, dried oregano, in like a chicken dredge that you're gonna fry. Finish with fresh herbs. They really do make hell of a difference. They taste fresh, they taste vibrant. You're throwing them in at the end of things, you're picking them, you're putting them through salads. Buy fresh coriander, buy fresh parsley, buy fresh thyme, buy fresh rosemary. Really, that's all you should use, okay? If you can get fresh bay leaf, use fresh bay leaf. Really try your best to use fresh herbs and get away from using dry herbs, okay? That is tip 6. Tip 7, use sharp knives. Sharp knives are a lot more safe than dull knives. Dull knives, they go sideways, you have to give it so much more pressure when you push it down. The chances that you're gonna slip and cut yourself is a lot higher. And then also your end product is gonna be a lot more shit if your knife isn't sharp, because it's just not gonna look as accurate. I'm gonna do a video in the future on some different types of knives, and I'll give you a lot more information on that. But for now, just know that it's worth having a sharp knife. Even the cheapest knives in the world, you can sharpen. If you guys wanna see a video of me, how to sharpen a knife, what knife to buy, and all that, tell me in the comment section and I'll make sure I do that in the future. Tip number 8, dry your proteins and rest your proteins, okay? So you get a steak, you get fish, you get something, you open it out of a bag. Normally it's in a bag full of blood, or the fish is all wet, and you just take it and you put some salt on it and you put it into a pan. Don't do this. Get your protein, have it in your fridge on a rack, maybe drying out, or just, take it out, take your steak out, take all the blood off of it, and make sure you're working with a dry product. Then you could start looking at seasoning it, right? If it's a steak that's relatively lean, you can look at putting oil on it. Olive oil, and then salt and pepper everywhere. Fish, same thing. You don't really have to put oil so much on fish, but make sure you're working with dry fish. If you get a whole fish, watch my fish video, okay? Dry the fish all the way around. Make sure your board is nice and dry. You have fish slipping everywhere. Dry the protein and work with a dry product. When you put it into the pan, it's important it to dry because the protein itself already has a lot of moisture inside of it. And you're gonna start applying heat to it, and it's gonna start pissing out that moisture into the pan. If you need to start with a dry product because you don't want it to bubble, you want it to sear, you want to keep color. Okay, so make sure you're drying your proteins really well, seasoning them really well, and getting them into a hot pan, a hot cast iron pan preferably. You'll end up with a lot better product. And when they're done, you need to rest them. You need to rest them for, they say, half the amount of time it took to cook it, you should rest it. And the reason for that is because you have protein, it's dense, you're applying heat to it. You need to give that heat time to permeate the meat and get inside. Now imagine, put a chicken breast in a 400-degree oven. So what you have then is you have heat attacking it from all these angles if it's a convection oven, and cooking that protein and cooking that protein and cooking that protein. To a certain point, you want to pull it out before that heat, that 400-degree heat, makes it all the way to the center, because if that's the case, it's going to be done. It's going to be blasted. It's going to be overcooked. So what you want to do when you're resting meat, you're resting fish, is give it that heat. Give it the heat that it needs, that 400 degrees for the color, the caramelization, colors, flavor. It needs that. But once it comes out of the oven, all of that heat energy that you've just put into it, all that intense 400-degree heat energy that's going into that protein, it doesn't just stop when you take it out of the oven. That heat is still in there, and it keeps going down. It keeps going down into the center of the protein that you're cooking. And so what you're doing when you're resting it is you're taking it out of the oven, and you're letting that heat keep going, but without adding more. It's finishing the cooking process. It's giving that meat and the juices a lot more time to sit and rest. The heat finishes, it goes into where it needs to, and it cuts off. And then what's gonna happen is all of the juices are then gonna start to sit. It's gonna be really hot and steamy, but you want that steam to cool down a little bit without the steam, which is moisture, just pissing out of it. What happens? You take a steak straight out of a pan, okay? When you medium rare, and you cut it right away, what you're gonna see is gray, and red, like rare in the middle. Steam's gonna be flying out of that thing, okay? First of all that steam, and if you're braising something, it's the same thing. If you're braising something for 3 hours in the oven, you take it out of the oven, please, for the love of God, let it sit in that braising liquid for 2 hours, 3 hours if you need to. Let it come all the way down almost to room temperature, and then talk about serving it. Because you're gonna cut into that thing, a pot roast, something in the oven, and you're gonna cut into it, and what you're gonna see is you're gonna see steam flying out of it. That moisture is leaving your cooked product. Okay, so what you wanna do is let that moisture stay inside. Let the meat cool down with that moisture inside of it. Let the heat finish cooking it, and you're gonna end up with a lot better cooked protein, okay? The bigger the protein, the thicker the piece of meat or fish, the longer you need to let it rest. The thinner, the quicker, obviously, okay? So please, dry your proteins, rest your proteins. That is tip number 8. Tip number 9 is use a scale, okay? Look at the link in the description. I'm gonna put a link for a scale on Amazon. Using a scale is so much more accurate. It's what we use in professional kitchens all the time. Move on from your mother's 1 cup of this, half a cup of this, half a tablespoon and teaspoon of this. Use grams, 5 grams salt, 10 grams sugar, 250 grams flour, 500 grams water, 210 grams oil. These are the recipes that we use in restaurants, because my cup and your mom's cup are gonna be different. I'm gonna make a heaping cup, she's gonna make a flat cup, she's gonna pack her brown sugar, I'm gonna scoop my brown sugar. There's so much variation when it comes to those units of measure that it just doesn't make sense. But for me and for somebody in Zimbabwe, 100 grams of flour is 100 grams of flour, no matter how you cut it. Okay, so get yourself a scale, use recipes that have grams, and you're just gonna end up with recipes that work more. You're gonna have less wasted product, you're gonna have better finished product, and your life is gonna be better. So get a scale, use a scale, and be a better chef. Tip number 9. It's a lot of talking. Okay. Tip number 10, stop adding 1,000 spices to everything you're cooking, okay? Stop going down the spice aisle at your local supermarket and buying everything that you can see and going home and getting all excited and horny about spices and start throwing all these spices in everything you're cooking because you think you're a chef. You're not. You're an asshole. Stop adding that many spices. You don't need to. Ingredients speak for themselves, okay? Asparagus is fucking delicious, okay? Chicken is fucking delicious with salt on it. Fish is great with salt on it as well. Salt and pepper are honestly your best friends. Use salt and pepper for everything. Make a steak, put salt and pepper on it, okay? And then start looking at adding things here and there, okay? Spices are necessary. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that they suck. Don't think because the more spices you're putting, the better your finished product is gonna be, because that's actually not the case. When you're cooking, when you learn about cooking and you study cooking, and actually the further you get into cooking, it turns out that actually doing less is better. Doing less to something there's more maturity in that. You're not gonna reinvent the wheel, okay? You're not better than the ingredient. The ingredient is always the best. All you can do is highlight that. And a lot of times what I find is simple is always better. Less ingredients, olive oil, chili pepper, garlic, Parmesan cheese, pasta, you know? Stop trying to add so much. Focus on the things that you have, focus on making those great. Go find some fresh ricotta cheese from somewhere in your town that makes it. Or get a recipe, I can show you a recipe on how to make ricotta cheese. Take a nice piece of toasted bread and spread the ricotta on top. Warm ricotta, toasted, you know, Italian bread, a little bit of olive oil and some salt. And it'll blow your nutsack off. And it's 3 ingredients, okay? Sushi. How many ingredients go in sushi? Most 3-star restaurants in the world are in Japan, and they're sushi restaurants. And think about what goes in sushi. Sushi is rice, vinegar, raw fish, and sometimes wasabi, okay? But the amount of care they give to washing the rice, cooking the rice, and seasoning the rice, they take 10 years to learn how to do that. The amount of time it takes to learn how to cut the fish properly, the temperature that the rice needs to be compared to the fish, how the fat from the fish melts on the temperature of the rice in your mouth. And it's 3 ingredients. It's such perfect harmony between 3 ingredients that there's so much maturity involved there. And that's why they say the Japanese are light years ahead of all of us. Simplicity is king, discipline is king in how you work. And you know, they hit the nail on the head with that one. Look at sushi as an example. That's how you need to start thinking about ingredients. Less is more. Spend your time finding good stuff and doing less to them. And you're going to find that your end products are a lot better, okay? That is tip number 10. If you like this video, please tell me in the comments. I could do another 10 tips if you really like it. If not, just don't. I'll go myself. Try one of these tips tonight. If it works, let me know in the comment section. I'd love to help you guys out. I love the fact that you're getting better at cooking, and I love you.